outlets are reporting that Disney CEO Bob Iger has once again doubled down on the notion that the only problem facing Star Wars is overexposure by Disney putting out too much Star Wars too soon. He did, and we'll get to that. However, he did so in a lengthy interview with the New York Times, in which so much more was revealed, some of which may have ramifications far beyond Star Wars. In this video, I'll go through the key revelations about the current trends of the industry, the tired narrative that overexposure is Star Wars' problem, and what Iger may do next. In a lengthy interview with the New York Times, aimed at drumming up interest in his upcoming memoirs, Bob Iger spoke of his career and key moments in it. Even if the writer couldn't resist the temptation of putting some political bias early on in the article, this is the New York Times after all. This is actually a good read, so I'll summarize the highlights for you. Iger started out in the lower middle class, of modest means and education, and rose to the top of the world by literally starting at the bottom and working his way up. Working harder, smarter, and longer than anyone else, for decades. On the way, he even had to endure a Me Too experience all of his own, so not all was good and well, but on the whole, his career is a string of success stories. What I thought was the most interesting part of this article is that after finally maneuvering himself into the position of taking the reins of the entire Disney empire, Iger saw the threat the big tech companies represented before anyone else. This is not in the article, but I will say that was quite visionary. He recognized that each of the big tech companies can buy all the Hollywood studios many times over. Big tech has the competitive advantage in creating digital distribution platforms, but they still have to either buy or make content to fill those distribution platforms like everyone else. And so, Iger took preemptive measures to accumulate more content for Disney, such as buying Pixar from Steve Jobs, buying Marvel from the reclusive Ike Perlmutter, and buying Lucasfilm and Star Wars with it from George Lucas. Interestingly, Iger reveals that when he did, Fox head honcho Rupert Murdoch blew a gasket and was absolutely furious. As you know, Fox had the distribution deal with Lucasfilm before Disney took over the entire Lucasfilm value chain. Murdoch wasn't angry with Iger or Disney though. Well, maybe he was a bit angry with them too, but mostly he was angry with his own people at Fox, because they didn't think of buying Lucasfilm first, and now it, and Star Wars with it, had slipped from their grasp. More interestingly, and also not in the article, is why Fox later decided to sell their entertainment division. Murdoch too recognized the threat the big tech companies represented for Hollywood in the long run, and that the only studios that will survive the competition with them are the ones that have exclusive content that audiences can't do without. By the time this realization came, however, Lucasfilm was already gone, and the content they did have wasn't deemed to be enough. They either had to invest in buying more entertainment content themselves, or sell off their entertainment division. They did the latter, and Disney were the ones that got it, in the process further expanding their own entertainment catalog. An opinion piece in Variety suggested that Disney doesn't just own all the properties, it owns all the mythologies. Yet some have wondered if Disney has already strip-mined the foundation of its new empire, stretching its famous franchises too thin. Iger agrees that was the case with Star Wars, saying that, "I just think we might have put a little bit too much in the marketplace too fast." But, he adds, "I think the storytelling capabilities of the company are endless because of the talent we have at the company, and the talent we have at the company is better than it's ever been, in part because of the influx of people from Fox. In other words, deflect and move on." And that is pretty much all Iger had to say about Star Wars. We all know the narrative that they put too much Star Wars in the marketplace too fast holds no water, and I honestly don't think Iger even believes that himself. I've torn that argument asunder in previous videos, and so have many others. But that appears to be their story and they're sticking to it. And there might be a good reason why. Admitting that Lucasfilm and Star Wars with it has been mismanaged under the leadership of an executive who happens to be female might be too hard to admit out loud, as Iger is all about diversity. The article bemoans the fact that while Disney has broken gender and race ground with movies like Captain Marvel and Black Panther, the top executives of the 4 quadrants of the company, TV, film, parks and consumer products, and streaming and international, are all white men. Iger concedes that it's a disappointment that those who directly report to him are lacking in diversity and wows. I'll change that before I leave. Introducing more diversity is probably going to be a big selling point in his next venture after leaving Disney. Iger is currently set to leave Disney in 2021, and a recurring theme in this article is the notion that he might run for president in 2024. He denies it, of course. When asked about it, he says, "I don't know that I have it in me." That's bullcrap. This whole article, which more likely than not is a paid-for puff piece, is filled with pairings between Iger and the presidency, and contrasting him to who currently holds that office, planting the idea of President Iger. Outside of pushing his memoirs, I think that may be the real purpose of this article. Do you think that's what this is really about? And do you think Disney made the right acquisitions under his rule? And could he actually be right that releasing too many Star Wars movies too fast is the only problem facing that franchise? Let me know in the comments.